EMR and Practice Management, IMO Search Drill Down Tool. Well, one of the new features for ICD-10 support is called the Drill Down. This is a new tab that has been embedded into the standard IMO search screen, and it provides a utility for users to drill down a standard ICD-9 code from its root up to the highest level of specificity. So we're going to go ahead and log in here to Prognosis. I've opened up Emily Bismatik's chart on the assessment screen, and I'm going to go ahead and click my plus sign, which invokes the IMO search. I'm going to go ahead and click on my Drill Down tab. Now the tab does initially display empty. There are no codes to default. You'll notice here in the upper left we do have a data entry field where you are going to enter your ICD-9 code. I'm just going to, for example, put in 7840 for a headache. And then I'm going to click the IT button, which is going to execute my search. Now notice you do have the option here of being able to filter your code by age or gender if that is something of concern to you. Now notice the screen has given me a return of results for code 7840. Starting with, of course, the most basic one of headache. You'll notice over here to the right we have our ICD-10 and our SNOMED columns. And in that ICD-9 column you'll notice it is 7840 all the way down. We have our scroll bar over here on the right so that we can go down through all of the contents. And then notice down here at the bottom it is telling me that I am seeing results 1 through 25, and I have an arrow to go to the next page of results. So there are multiple pages here, each page displaying 25 at a time. Now if you notice over here on our left hand margin there are two different icons that will appear. One of these is the greater than sign, the other is the plus sign. The plus sign means that that particular entry does not go to a higher level. So for instance here for my second entry called aching headache, the R51 ICD-10 with the SNOMED of 162307009 is the highest level. So if that is the code that I want, I simply click the plus sign. And if you notice over here on the left hand margin I have this gray tab called Conditions that has a plus sign to expand it. If I click that, you'll notice here that my aching headache has been added to my Conditions tab. If I want to remove it, I simply click the X and it does prompt me to confirm. Now this Conditions tab is a temporary receptacle so that as I am searching and selecting, at the end when I click OK, all of the codes that have been compiling over here on the Conditions tab are what will be added into my encounter. Now the opposite of that plus sign icon is the greater than sign. If I click it, it is going to actually expand to show me the next level of details. This is where the drill down comes into play. So for instance here we have a headache type. You notice that I can scroll through here and I could choose tension, cluster, etc. I have chronicity patterns, acute, chronic, episodic, unspecified, intractability. Now this is for the headache. If I were to choose a different code such as a fracture or diabetes, I'm not going to have necessarily chronicity patterns or intractability unless they are applicable to that root also. Taking it to the next level, when you choose a condition in one of the tables towards the left, for instance if I choose tension headache as the headache type, notice in the middle for the chronicity pattern, acute has become disabled because it is not an option for the tension type. However, chronic, episodic, and unspecified patterns still are. So I could choose one of those. Now, if instead of tension type, I chose vascular headache, none of the chronicity nor the intractability options are applicable. So the way this drill down works is based on the different condition tables that are present. As you choose one in the leftmost table, then the other options filter down accordingly. Now if you notice underneath the tables, the expanded codes are present. So if once I have chosen tension type, I can just simply go ahead and choose one of these codes, or I can go ahead and select further in the tables to my right. So for instance, I'll go ahead and choose chronic. Notice now my codes that have expanded are only chronic type, both intractable and non-intractable. And of course, these are at the uppermost level of specificity, have the plus sign. So you see here how the drill down is working. I started with my root, And then it brought up all of these additional options that I could choose from. And as I'm drilling it down and locking in my values, it is telling me what my code is underneath. So now I know what code I need for my chronic tension type headache intractable. And notice how the ICD-10 is even different than the one I started with. I started with generic 7840 headache, but because of the specificity of this drill down utility, it is now bringing me all the way down based on the conditions I specified medically for the patient I'm treating. And now I have the plus sign, meaning I can add this code to my conditions table and then search for another. Along with the headache, we're going to go ahead and give Emily diabetes. So I'm going to put in my 2500. I'm just going to go ahead and click that first one, the type 1 diabetes mellitus. Now, since diabetes is a different disease from headache, the tables that I get to choose my higher level of specificities are going to be different. If you recall back on the headache, we had 3 tables. You see here we have our complication status, our complication detail, our retinopathy severity, and then our macular edema options. And each of these, again, are going to have different options that become suppressed or available in the subsequent tables when we make our choices. So if I go ahead and say with circulatory complication, notice how it got rid of my macular edema and retinopathy altogether. And I'm just going to go ahead then and choose with peripheral angiopathy and gangrene. And then you'll notice here below my tables, my diagnosis is available. So I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign there to add it to my conditions table. And since I've added the 2 diagnoses I need, the headache and the diabetes, I'm done with Emily's chart, so I can click my OK button, and that will update the assessment. Before I do that, however, I just want to point out to you this conditions table. I'm going to go ahead and expand it, and notice that it does have both of my diagnoses. As you add them by the plus sign, they show up over here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK now to update my encounter, and notice how now my encounter is completely updated with the 2 codes that I chose. And I can go ahead and save it and complete my encounter as far as my assessment plan and care. So it's that simple as far as using this drill down tool. I'm going to go back in there to my drill down search, and we're going to look at a few other features within the utility. I'm going to use the diabetes again as an example. If you notice here in between my icons and description, I have some red symbols. This is your HCC information. And as I hover over each symbol, there's some information that pops up in your tooltip. You see here on the R, for instance, we have category, community factors, and institution factors. Beside it, we have our RX HCC information, such as dollar coefficients, relative factors. So if you're interested in knowing that level of data, it is available there simply by hovering over the symbol. We've also got this green plus sign next to some of our codes. And if you hover over that, it simply says that there is a secondary code present. So what you're looking at initially here is the preferred or the recommended code, but when there's a plus sign associated, that means that there is a secondary code also available. And if you double click the name of the description, it's going to open up a detail screen that includes that secondary code, along with some other information that you may be interested in. And then finally, if you just simply hover over the description, you will get a tooltip that includes those additional codes as well. So just a lot of additional information that previously we did not have available at simply the ICD-10 level. The last thing I want to point out here is in the upper right, there is a question mark icon, which is built-in help. Now keep in mind, IMO is not prognosis. We are affiliated with IMO since they are an industry standard, and we have a relationship with them to offer you their service here as a diagnosis search tool. Drill down comes from them as an ICD-10 utility. If there are questions regarding this feature, please click this question mark and review their FAQs. Talks about code mapping disagreements. If your questions aren't answered here, they have a link to their user guide. They also have a link here to their website, their customer service phone, and email. Of course, our help desk and prognosis can help you with technical issues, but if you have questions within the content of the IMO search, prognosis is not going to be able to help you with those questions. We cannot modify the descriptions in here. So in review, the IMO search drill down helps you identify the appropriate ICD-10 SNOMED, using the ICD-10 code as the foundation. This then allows you to drill down based upon conditions or specificity specific to the root disease. You're able to search and select multiple codes at once in order to update the encounter or the claim. This functionality is applicable wherever the IMO search screen is system-wide, and that would be both in EMR and practice management. There's also additional coding-related details available within the drill-down screen, such as your HCC details and secondary codes when applicable. Now, please remember that Bizmatics has no administrative access to modify the content. However, technical support is available if needed.